Welcome everybody to a special edition of Tap Out Talk. I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype, and we're going to get into a preview and predictions for Bound for Glory, the pay-per-view this weekend. Let's get right in. And this weekend, Impact Wrestling will host its annual Bound for Glory pay-per-view, its biggest show of the year, Saturday, October 23rd, live on the PPV pay-per-view model. And first match I want to cover on today's episode is a preview of, we're going to do also predictions, is the Call Your Shot Gauntlet Battle Royal. And the high stakes of the Call Your Shot Gauntlet returns to Bound for Glory this year. This unique matchup begins with two competitors in the ring, and after a time interval, more entries join the fray. As the ring fills up, eliminations can occur at any time by throwing your opponent over the top rope. This process will continue until there are only two competitors remaining, which is when it transforms into a single match that can be only won by pinfall or submission. So, every interval, somebody comes into the ring, eliminated again, over the top rope. And at this point, we have two competitors remaining in the ring. They will duke it out in the match. Whoever scores the victory first will earn a future title shot of any of their choosing, anytime, any place. So this is the essential way to get your spot in Impact Wrestling and a must win if you want to advance your career. Competitors that we have right now are Rich Swann, Brian Myers, Moose, W. Morrissey have all declared their entry into the gauntlet. But if past your Call Your Shot gauntlets have taught us anything, you never know who may show up for this once in a lifetime opportunity. We do know, following on Impact, that we also know that W. Morrissey will enter the gauntlet at the very coveted number 20 spot, while unfortunately Chris Sabin, not as lucky, must enter at number 1. Don't let that scare you though. We've had lots of matches like this in the past where the number 1 competitor has actually went on to do great things in the world of wrestling. So I'm going to go ahead and give us a prediction for this matchup. Outside of a major surprise and show up that is being teased, I am going to say this is a great opportunity for a big man to make his impression at the inaugural event of Bound for Glory. And that man will be none other than the former Braun Strowman from the WWE, debuting under his new ring name, Titan. And no way to debut a big man any better than let him dominate a gauntlet rumble match like this. So that's going to be my prediction for this. If it's a mystery opponent, I do like the idea of Chris Sabin possibly running the whole gauntlet from number 1 and getting back into that main event title contention picture. I would love to see a Chris Sabin versus Josh Alexander or Christian Cage match, and I think those foundations have already been laid out as well. Let's go to the next one. After a dominant X Division champion, Josh Alexander, who never lost the title, by the way, has exercised his option C to relinquish the X Division title in exchange for an Impact World title opportunity against Christian Cage, which we will cover later on. So due to Josh Alexander giving up his X Division title, the tournament to crown a new champion began. A series of 3-way matches would determine the competitors in the X Division title match at Impact Wrestling's biggest event of the year, Bound for Glory. The X Division standout Trey Miguel, undefeated powerhouse Steve Macklin, and Bullet Club's El Phantasmo were all victorious in their tournament matchups, qualifying them for a 3-way showdown at Bound for Glory. Who will lead Bound for Glory as the X Division champion? Well, my case is I've got to go with Steve Macklin here. He's undefeated. He's a powerhouse. And he's really, this match is made for him. And one of these other guys could take the pinfall and not make the others look bad. I look for Trey Miguel to take the pinfall. I don't think they will tarnish the Bullet Club name with El Phantasmo. So I think Steve Maclin is your new X Division champion. And finally, we also have a debut of a very iconic tag team, as I reported last week on Tap Out Talk. The Iconics from the WWE are making their way to Impact Wrestling, and they have shedded their skin for a lighter, more inspiring tag team, which is they are known as the Inspiration, is coming to Bound for Glory, and they're coming for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. In the closing moments of the Knockouts Knockdown, we learned that Cassie Lee and Jessica McKay will be making their Impact debut at Bound for Glory. We can only confirm that the Inspiration will compete at Impact Wrestling's biggest event of the year, as they will challenge the Decay for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. Having held the tag team gold in the past, it's no surprise that the Inspiration have set their sight on capturing the Knockouts tag team titles, and they are ready to hold gold once again and inspire the masses of fans. But their opponents, Havoc and Rosemary, not to be taken lightly, as they have proven to be a powerful force during their title reign. And will the Inspiration become the Knockout Tag Team Champions in their very first match ever in Impact, or will the Decay spoil their arrival in the name of the Shadow? Here's where I see it, guys. You brought in the Inspiration. I think there's going to be a big plan for this. While the Decay have done a really good job of holding down the fort with the tag team, I think it's time to get some star power, and I think the Inspiration is going to be a great way to do that. These girls are great on the mic. I love their work as the Iconics in the WWE, and I feel like their ring skills have developed slowly over time as well, but they're more about the characters and their mic pieces than the in-ring work, which is, average and is getting better. So I definitely like the Inspiration here on this matchup. Up next, we have a Bound for Glory. And the question remains, will the real Rhino please stand up? That is exactly what Heath Ledger is hopeful for at Impact Wrestling's biggest event of the year, as he battles Violent by Design, VBD, in tag team action. After Rhino was punished by his former allies for failing to recapture Impact World Tag Team titles, Heath made a shocking return and came to the aid of his long-term friend and ex-tag team partner, Rhino. But when prompted to pick a side, Rhino instead exited the Impact Zone through the crowd. With Heath cleared for competition following a year-long injury, he has vowed to get revenge on Violent by Design at this year's Bound for Glory. Will the Rhino of old fight by his side, or will Heath suffer what is otherwise an inevitable beatdown at the hands of VBD? Here's what I see. I see VBD staying its ground. I see them being a functioning unit, and I do see Rhino staying with them. I know they are telling the story of the friends getting reunited, but I do think Heath will be on the verge of another beatdown, and when Rhino runs in, he will have to make a choice, and he will ultimately make a choice to beat down Heath. But what I think is going to happen is we could get a involvement with the Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson. We could have Gallows and Anderson come for the save, and we could equal this matchup up and make it a 3-on-3 6-man tag match. So there's going to be my predictions for that. And I feel like by the end of the day, Heath Ledger will get his revenge and get his win. All right, we're down to the two main events of this competition, and this is a big one here. This is for Bound for Glory, Knockout Women's Champion Deanna Purrazzo versus three-time Knockout Women's former champion Mickie James. At Bound for Glory, Deanna Purrazzo will put her Knockouts title on the line against Mickie James in one of the most anticipated matches in Impact Wrestling history. It all started when James recruited Purrazzo to compete at NWA's first ever all-women pay-per-view, NWA Empower. After several heated exchanges with James in the lead-up to the event, Purrazzo would go on to retain her Knockouts title against the legendary Melina on that very night. But it was what happened just 24 hours later at NWA 73 that truly changed everything. Following the return to in-ring competition, Mickie James was assaulted by Deanna Purrazzo, bringing a grim end to her monumental moment. Vowing to show her what hardcore country is all about, James would retaliate with an all-out attack on Purrazzo inside the Impact Zone. But when James challenged Purrazzo to a Knockouts title match at Impact Wrestling's biggest event of the year, Purrazzo would actually turn her down, citing that she hadn't earned the opportunity for a Knockout Women's Champion at Bound for Glory. Luckily for James, Impact Executive Vice President Scott D'Amore happened to disagree, vetoing Purrazzo's decision and making the match official. Will Deanna Purrazzo continue her dominant reign as one of the greatest knockout champions of all time? Or will Mickie James prove why she's one of the pillars of Impact Wrestling and capture the Knockouts Gold once again? This is a tough one for me to call, guys. You're in kind of a weird mode right now with Impact Wrestling. You've got Deanna Purrazzo, who is holding down the fort. And then you also have Mickie James, the legend. And I find it's going to be very hard. I want to say that Deanna Purrazzo will go over Mickie James in a match of respect. But also, I could see Impact Wrestling putting the title back on Mickie James and giving her one last run with the gold. All for best purposes in my booking, I'm going to go ahead and say Deanna Purrazzo goes ahead and gets the 1, 2, 3 over the hardcore country, Mickie James. And in the main event, we have the instant classic Christian Cage, the Impact World Champion, All Elite Wrestling talent member, as I remind you. And he will be defending that title against Josh Alexander, and the up-and-coming wrestler, former X Division champion, former tag team champion with the tag team The North. And let's talk a little bit about the history here. These guys have been leading up a great story for Bound for Glory this year. At Victory Road, Christian Cage successfully retained his Impact World title against Ace Austin in a hard-fought contest. But it was what happened after the match that sent shockwaves through the entire wrestling world. Just moments after the bell, Christian Cage was confronted by a dominant X Division champion, Josh Alexander, who also retained his title over the X Division veteran Chris Sabin earlier in the night. While at the end of that night, Chris Sabin whispered in Josh Alexander's ear. We all wondered what he said, and he told Josh Alexander, "You've done everything you can here. You're an amazing X Division champion. You're up there with the levels of Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, and so on." And Chris Sabin did tell Josh Alexander, you need to enact option C and go for a world title. So while staring down Christian Cage, Alexander would actually do that exact same thing and exercise option C, meaning that he would relinquish his X Division title for a hope to become Impact World title champion. So a match of this caliber can only take place at Impact's biggest stage of the year. We can now confirm that the match is official. We can now confirm that it will be the instant classic Christian Cage who will defend his title against the Impact World title against Josh Alexander at Bound for Glory. I love this matchup. I love this build. You've got very similar guys in their wrestling style and their wrestling ability. You do have Josh Alexander, who is shown as this fighting young guy raising up in the ranks. He was in the tag team The North, had a lot of great success there. And like all great tag teams, sometimes a split occurs and one guy goes on to be, a hardcore competitor. He went on to become X Division champion. A lot of people have a big fan following of Josh Alexander. And he's definitely a homegrown Impact star. On the other side of it, you have another Impact legend, which is Christian Cage. In the early days of TNA Impact Wrestling, Christian Cage did come and leave WWE to, seek out Impact Wrestling and actually went on to become champion and hold this title for quite a few years. And he had a great run there. So as I see these two go head to head, I do see a lot of similarities in there. It's going to be an interesting take because I think Josh Alexander is definitely going to be primed for being a face of Impact Wrestling. But I don't think that's going to happen today. I think for now, Christian Cage just got this title off of Kenny Omega recently in AEW. Kenny the Collector had all the belts. Christian, being an AEW talent member, has this belt and is now showing up on Bound for Glory as a way to kind of partner with them to help raise both brands so we have this territory thing going on. I think Christian remains your Impact champion for a little bit longer, but I do see this program going beyond probably just this one match at Bound for Glory, and I feel like it will have another match in the following pay-per-views. Guys, it's going to be an interesting week. I always like Bound for Glory. It's definitely TNA, Impact Wrestling's biggest pay-per-view of the year, and you're going to find out Saturday, October 23rd. That's all I have for you. I just wanted to give you a quick preview and predictions. I hope you enjoy the show, and I hope you enjoy some glory. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. I always appreciate you. And it's not goodbye. It's game over.